Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. Election day is looming and the polls are tightening in key battleground states. Joining me to discuss the trends, the news from the trail, and the Trump interview is Matt SCHLAPP, chairman of the American Conservative Union. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Great to be with you again.
Hey, let's look at these polls for a minute. We see them tightening in Florida, North Carolina. They're moving up and down. Georgia seems to be tightening. Nevada. What do you see? I mean, you've been an old hand in a number of these campaigns.
That's right.
What's going on?
This race is going to naturally tighten because 70% of Americans think this country is on the wrong track, and it's very rare for one party to get 3 terms in a row. It's very tough for Hillary Clinton to make the case that we need more of these Obama policies, but so far, there's no question she's leading.
Yeah, and that's what she's doing. Now, my sense is that this race is really in the margin of error. That's
right.
where it's going to end up. So does it then just become a turnout game?
Yeah, very much so. And the other thing on polls that all your viewers need to know is that we've never seen an October like this in modern presidential campaigns. So much debris, clutter, noise, whatever you want to call it.
October.
You
How
pick
about
the euphemism.
September, June, January, July?
Worse in October.
Okay.
And that's when Americans really start paying attention. So the other thing on these polls, they're going to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
The fundamentals are the same, which is this is going to be a very close election. So turnout is going to matter. And these key battleground states, keep your eyes on them.
Okay. Now, Trump's national finance chairman said they are ceasing fundraising for the remainder of the campaign. Now, I know we only have a week and change, but Hillary Clinton has surrogates going out. They're hitting Hollywood. They're hitting Wall Street. You know, Michelle Obama's doing dinners for her and Katy Perry. They're raising money.
Yeah.
Why is the Trump campaign closing up shop on the formal fundraising front, and what does that mean?
They're not, but this is they're still going to fundraise online.
Okay.
But what it's the biggest irony of this race, which is you have the billionaire who would rather hang out with the people and be at rallies talking to voters, and you have the liberal who is spending most of her time at country clubs talking to billionaires. And I actually think Donald Trump's doing the right thing. If he's going to win this race, it's not going to be because they upped their TV buys. It's going to be because he got to more cities and talked to more people and connected with him on his key messages.
There's a story today out of McAllen, Texas. It's a CBS story. And it's about illegal immigrants crashing the border, hundreds of them coming across in McAllen because they're being told, get into the country now, so if Hillary Clinton wins the White House, you might get amnesty.
That's right. Look, this is the moral hazard. And we saw this when Obama did similar things at the border. We are sending all the wrong messages, which those messages are not. It's awfully dangerous to take these long treks to come to America, and you ought to do it the legal way. The message Clinton and Obama are sending is do it the illegal way. If you do it the illegal way, you cut in line and eventually we'll give you amnesty. It's a shame for those people. And it's a shame for our country, and it's a shame for all those people who are waiting in long lines to become American citizens.
Has this election opened up fissures, in your opinion, in the GOP, in the conservative movement? How do you heal them?
Respect.
Can you?
Number one is respect. People are going to follow their conscience and vote as they are directed, which I applaud and I encourage people to do. And at the end, we're either going to win this race or we're going to lose this race. It's really not that complicated. Either Hillary Clinton is going to win or Donald Trump's going to win. If Donald Trump loses, let's not point fingers at each other. Let's start to immediately unite to fight these horribly, liberal, progressive, Obama-like policies that are going to come out of Hillary Clinton. She will not be a president that governs from the middle. She will be a president that governs much like Bernie Sanders would have governed. And I think it's time for all people of faith to get their eye on that ball.
Well, I have to take a little issue of what you said because you were saying don't point fingers at one another. The finger pointing started when Trump won the primaries. I mean, it's really from that point on. You've got the Never Trump crowd saying, you people are to blame. The extreme right wing in the base of the party created this monster. Then, of course, you have the people in that base saying, no, you all wouldn't listen to these issues, so this was our only option. How do you get past that?
You get past it by listening to each other. I think a lot of people in the Republican Party think we were going to get past this discord out in the country by ignoring it. And they ignored it. And that discord resulted in millions of votes for Donald Trump, which they thought was a big statement against Washington, D.C. and Republican leaders. We are not going to be able to heal this if we ignore our divisions. We will be able to heal it if we start to change our act.
Donald Trump said this the other day. The people are very angry at the leadership of this party because in an election, we will win 100% if we had support from the top. I think we're going to win it anyway, he said. He's clearly already trying to position this a bit, saying, wait a minute, the reason I'm a little behind is because the establishment, the GOP won't support me.
This is something he's wrong about. I actually think it helps him when some of these old Republican leaders don't support Donald Trump. I think it makes the case that Donald Trump is so outside the system and the establishment that he's going to take on both parties if needed. He's going to upset a lot of people in Congress. So when Republicans are also uneasy with Donald Trump, it kind of reiterates to voters who want them to be uneasy because they want to see change.
And you think those issues he rattled off at the end of my interview there,
Yes.
I said, these are the issues. What are the issues that will go on whether you win or lose? Do you think the country and the party will have to grapple with that host of issues?
Yes, because this was, in the end, this was never about Donald Trump. This was about Donald Trump being smart enough to listen to people, millions of people in the conservative movement and in the Republican Party who wanted the party to listen to them and how much pain they're in and how much pain their family's in.
Okay, I want to get into some of the things that we brought out in the interview or that he revealed in the interview. He talked about that rigged election question.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton saying he is a threat to the democracy. And Donald Trump seems to be not doubling down, tripling down. He said, yeah, it is rigged. Everything's rigged.
Yeah.
I said, you don't mean the voter count, actually counting ballots. He said, yeah, I do believe that. Now, Matt Schlapp, you were down in Florida the last time they had all those hanging chads.
2000.
Your experience and research tells you what? Is there credibility in what Donald Trump's saying, or does he stretch it here?
Look, if an election is very close, it does come down to the subjective decision-making of office holders and volunteers in the election process. We have thousands of people who sit in jails because they voted fraudulently. This is a fact, and for us to ignore it is wrong. Everyone should vote who has a legal right to vote. I encourage them all to vote, but no one should vote if they don't have a legal right to vote. And I think focusing on that is important. Barack Obama made these charges against Hillary Clinton in 2008 by saying her people were suppressing his supporters. And he himself, as Donald Trump said in your interview, has raised concerns about our electoral process. But when a Republican or a conservative does it, there's something untoward about it.
What do you make about the Catholic emails, those mocking Catholic emails that came out in the Podesta dump? And it was the communications director of the Clinton campaign, Jennifer Palmieri, as well as Podesta and some of his supporters and activists, making very disparaging comments about Catholics, evangelicals. Now, Donald Trump went a step further. He said, it's not only the staff, it's her.
That's right.
It's her. And he said, that's enough that no Catholic or evangelical should vote for her. Does he go too far?
I've watched Hillary Clinton both as a Hill staffer and as a staffer for President George W. Bush. I've seen her in public office. Please name for me the issue that Catholics care about that she has championed. I can't think of one. Whether or not she's hostile with her words, she's definitely hostile with her policies and her practices and her speeches, what she's done on the global stage. She has a disdain for people who have a traditional view of families and values, and I think that comes out in the words of her staffers when the cameras are off and the doors are closed and they think they're in private. They let their bigotry all hang out.
The other lingering issue, it seems to me, hanging over this election, and as I travel the country, I hear it over and over again, and I brought it to Donald Trump's attention. I have men and women who say, I cannot vote for him and look my daughter or my wife or my mother in the eye. I can't do it. Did he sufficiently answer that question there? And as time goes on and we move away from the Billy Bush bus comments, does that create the space that allows them to return to him on other issues?
I have this conversation with people all the time, too. Sometimes it's conservatives and people of faith
it's a lot of conservatives.
Can I stand with this man when I have these concerns? And I often say, you know, a lot of people are going to be 60% for Trump. They're not 100% for Trump, but they're 60% for Trump. And when it comes to his words that have been harmful and hurtful and for his transgressions, yes, I'd like him to take that extra step and say, look, I've done wrong, but I've lived a big, full life. And as a 70-year-old man, I'm looking at Barack Obama destroy our country. And I think Hillary Clinton will just fulfill those policies. I know that I've not been perfect, but you can trust me. And what I tell you, I will do. And that's what I think you ought to keep saying.
I want to step back for a moment and talk about the role of the bishops this election
Yeah.
season. They
Who have been infiltrated, as you pointed out, which is very interesting. These groups have literally been meeting with these bishops throughout the last year and the year before to try to sell them on the idea that somehow this Clinton progressive...
you mean those organizations
yes,
that Podesta helped incubate?
And George Soros helped fund, that I don't think faith ever even enters the mind of these
Do you think the bishops have been clear in their teaching, particularly vis-a-vis the vote and how people should be morally formed as they go into the ballot box?
I think our bishops are as conflicted as so many voters by what they have in this election cycle. And I think as we get closer to Election Day, what I'm seeing is more and more bishops realizing, because of all that clutter and noise we talked about in the polls, all these things they see on television, they're realizing, what does it come down to? It comes down to a court, which is 4-4. And do we tip it in favor of the First Amendment and our religious freedoms? Do we tip it for our Bill of Rights and the idea that it's okay to have restrictions on abortion? And well, how about this? Is it okay to say that our taxpayer dollars shouldn't go to fund abortions? These are the questions that the court may decide. It's a jump ball, Raymond. Who's going to make that ninth pick, which will determine these majorities?
What does your gut tell you as you go into this final March? We only have a week.
That for the first time in a very long time, a Republican who would be down a couple of points could win. Why? Because the enthusiasm is all on Donald Trump's side, all of it. Second of all, there is this quiet Trump support for people who are worried about the moral judgment from folks who say you can't support him, ... They are going to be with Donald Trump. They're not going to tell pollsters. They're not going to tell the people in their lives. When they go into the secrecy of that polling booth, they're going to flick that lever. I had a never Trump lawyer who's very public call me the other day and was going through it, and he said, you know, at the end of the day, no matter what I've said, and that polling booth, that curtain closes, I'll probably vote for Donald Trump because at the end of the day, she's repugnant to me. And even these never Trump people will realize the moral questions at stake when it comes to Election Day.
Very interesting. We shall see. I got to tell you, watching him at Doral and seeing a few of his other campaign events, and I've seen only one of the Hillary events live, there is a palpable excitement that he generates, and the crowds are enormous. I mean, they're immense compared to at least the Hillary Clinton event I was at here in Virginia. It was not a big event. It was a pretty subdued one at a high school. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the days ahead.
Yeah, I mean, enthusiasm at these Hillary Clinton stops, they're not there. And, you know, she's a logical choice to a lot of people, but she's not the choice of anyone's heart. And Donald Trump, let's face it, he's imperfect, but people like the authenticity and they like the leadership.
So, final question, and it's the final one I asked Donald Trump. You were surprised that it was big league. You thought it was big league.
No, that's untrue.
Oh, you did?
I knew it was. I thought it sounded like big league.
Well,
but I knew
because
that
of Jimmy Fallon.
Yes, that he likes to say big league. Now, you know, whether that comes from polling or the man's own head, I'm going with the latter.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very New York.
Right.
Matt Schlapp, thanks for being here.